In this video, we are going to talk about Bonk, some of its recent price action, the important support and resistance areas, and where we can expect the price of Bonk to go in the next few days and weeks. So we'll look at the weekly chart, and what we can see here is that Bonk is basically at its all-time low, with the only point in its history being lower being back in the October liquidation event. And back then, Bonk was significantly lower, but this was only for a very brief period of time. Bonk was all the way down here, only for literally a few minutes, for less than an hour, and it then recovered significantly very quickly. But even after that recovery, it continued to drop, and now we are basically, as I said, at a new all-time low. Bonk has been looking very weak since about July, with it dumping about 80% in just a few months. We can see that actually very similarly to some other altcoins that I have covered. Bonk has the structure where it continuously reached this area that I'm showing you on the chart right now and got rejected from it again and again, except one time back in the mini alt season that we had in late 2024. This is the only time where Bonk actually managed to break above this resistance area, but it then dumped very significantly, and in the recent high for Bonk in July, we saw that this resistance area is still very strong. So now with Bonk being, again, as I said, basically at a new all-time low, the next support area for Bonk would be this trend line. If you connect these previous major lows for Bonk, we can see that it is basically at the trend line right now, even slightly lower. Yes, if we zoom in, we can see that Bonk is actually a bit lower than the trend line. This is actually a very concerning sign. Usually for a confirmation of a breakdown below a support area, we need to see the price closing a weekly candle below it, and we have actually seen Bonk close one weekly candle below it, although technically if we really stretch it out and we draw the trend line in the most favorable way, then we could say that Bonk is still a little bit above the trend line, but it's really not looking that great. I think that for Bonk to actually really hold this trend line and not head significantly lower, it would require Bitcoin to start doing very well very soon. And if Bitcoin just continues to consolidate like it did in the past couple of weeks, or even get a slight dump, then Bonk will likely head lower, lose this support area, and just continue to create new all-time lows, potentially even head all the way down to where the price was back in the liquidation event. So I think that Bonk is in a pretty rough situation, and for this to change, we would need to see Bonk getting a recovery ASAP, or at least to be able to hold on to this trend line for a few more weeks until Bitcoin starts doing better again. I think that Bitcoin will most likely head back above 100k sometime in the next few months, even if we are in a bear market, because even if we are in a bear market, Bitcoin will create a new lower high, and that new lower high will most likely be at least at 100k in my opinion. But if Bonk loses the support area before Bitcoin manages to get that significant relief rally, then it could already be too late for Bonk, and it could already head much lower by the time that happens. So I think that for Bonk to really have any hope, it needs to start getting a relief rally as soon as possible, and if that doesn't happen, then it will likely continue heading a lot lower. Again, as I showed you before, Bonk is barely above the trend line, and that's if I'm drawing the trend line in the most favorable way possible. If I do it in a more regular way, really considering the bodies of the candles more rather than the wicks, then you can see that Bonk is significantly below the trend line already, and that clearly broke below it. So although I do think that there is a small chance that Bonk does get a recovery, I think that it is definitely pretty unlikely, and it would require a very big shift in the entire crypto market for Bonk to make a significant recovery. But for the more optimistic view, I think that if Bonk does get a significant recovery and heads significantly above the trend line, and we see a period of euphoria in the entire crypto market, if Bitcoin gets at least close to its previous all-time high, and Ethereum follows it and gets a new all-time high, and we get an alt season, then I think that it is possible for Bonk to head significantly higher, potentially even all the way up to this resistance area, and then that would be a rally of about 300%, even slightly more than 300%. But I think that this would be a very optimistic view, and it is really not my base case at the moment. And there are also a bunch of other resistance areas before that Bonk would need to try to cross, and it would really require a very significant period of euphoria in the entire crypto market and Bonk. So although there is always a chance for Bonk to actually get a rally, and if it does get a significant rally, then it could be absolutely insane, with it being a very low market cap meme coin and being very volatile. It is possible that I will end up being completely wrong, and we will see Bonk heading way higher and maybe even creating new all-time highs, who knows, sometime in the next few months. But I think that it's extremely unlikely, and I would personally completely avoid Bonk at the moment. Of course, this is not financial advice whatsoever, but that's just what I would personally do. So that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it and you want more updates about Bonk as well as other meme coins and altcoins, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.